Konnichiwa minasan, Gitsapalooza ni yokoso.
Hello everyone and welcome to Gitsapalooza. Today I'm going to continue my Adepticon series, getting ready for the Grandmasters tournament at Adepticon next month. I did the last video was talking about some tournament norms. This one will include a couple of norms, but by and large it's mostly me giving you suggestions on how to do things to make your life a little easier, to make the game go smoother. And so I'll be going over things. This will be the last video of this sort. And the next video you will see, which will come up soon, will include a discussion of the scenarios. I don't know how many I'm going to do in each video. I may do one, I may do two. I don't think I'll do more than two in a single video. But anyway, the tricky thing, the reason it's taken me a little longer to get this video out than I had hoped, is that there's a lot of references and things that I need to make. And you wouldn't believe how many of the copies of these sheets are on my floor crumpled up because I kept screwing them up or forgetting things. So I've got, I think I've got things organized now. What I'm going to do, there's a lot of things I'll refer to that I can't really put in the video, like URLs to get to this or to the other thing. I will put those in the video description. So usually, you know, my video descriptions are very succinct and short. This one's going to be long. It's going to have URLs. It's going to tell you what's at the URL. And in some cases, I may give instructions beyond just the URL. So hopefully you guys will find this useful. If you know, a lot of this discussion is going on in various groups on Facebook. If you know somebody's going to be in the tournament and they're not normally on Facebook, you might point them to the Bushido fans page is what the title is, or Bushido the Game. So the actual, I think the official title is Bushido the Game, but the picture on the front says Bushido fans page on Facebook. Or I put together a Adepticon 2020 Bushido page, which I will also link. So get these people hooked up if they're not normally on Facebook. I will also be putting this information on GCT's forum, so it'll exist there, and I will put as much as I can get on the Adepticon announcement or the Adepticon rule sets. Those I don't put on directly, but I have the guy that's been helping me with, from Adepticon, my contact there, I can give him stuff and he'll put it up. So I will try to spread this out beyond these videos and beyond the Facebook pages. But if you know somebody who isn't very internet connected, make sure you pass on this information to them or give them a way to connect to it, or try to, at least provide it to them. It'll make their lives a lot easier. So let's jump right in. The first thing I want to talk about is your army list. You're going to need 2 written copies of your army list, one to turn in when you register, and the second one to keep with you so that you can share it with your opponent if they ask for it. Make sure that any gear you have that is equipment is assigned to a specific model. You can't have floating gear in your list that you just reassign depending on who you're fighting. Gear needs to be assigned to specific models. Obviously, events don't. They just happen. But just make sure your gear is assigned. One of the things that's been suggested to me is BattleScribe, which is a free army building program that you can use for a really wide variety of games. Has a Bushido section to it. And I will provide details on how to get to BattleScribe and where to find the Bushido stuff in the description. But you don't have to use BattleScribe, but one of the reasons it's been suggested is it can be pretty simple. If you go for kind of a minimal list, and I will describe what to turn on and turn off. But basically, if you turn off almost everything except for the title, a total for the rice cost, and the categories, you will turn in a very small, succinct list that we will be able to check very quickly. And you can carry this around with you and easily show it to your opponent. They'll be able to see a quick list of what you have. You notice that, for example, I only have one card supporting this, but the Spirit of the Consumed is associated with the right model, so you can add the cards specifically to the model that has them. And also the themes are included. And in this case, the Alphas theme. This is actually a 102-point list, but because of the Alphas theme and the fact that I've got 2 Oni, the Ushi down here is just a alternate personality for Kimono. When I added the Alphas, it discounted the whole list 2 points and brought it back down to 100 rice. So anyway, these are handy, and you can have them turn on profiles. You can have it turn on rules. But double check everything. When I did this list, actually having the rules, you can have a rules summary at the end, which means that all the special rules are in alphabetical order and they'd be on another page. That's really sweet. But double check to make sure it's accurate, because this is still being built. So while this part of it I'm very confident in, I noticed that when I looked up Ushi's abilities and things and his special rules, most of them were wrong. So I just sent an email off to Ben and let him know that that what needed to be fixed, and when he gets a chance, he'll take care of it. But so if you're going to rely on the rules part, just double check and make sure that everything's right before you do it. But anyway, this is nice because it's all printed. It's neat. When I titled the list Art Wagner Alpha Dogs. At the very beginning, it'll ask you if you want to give it a title, just put your name on it, and then anything else you want to put behind it's fine, but make sure your name is on there, and it'll just make it that much easier for us, because we won't have to try to read your handwriting, which may normally be good, but if we're in a rush to get you registered, who knows? So anyway, it's free. It works. Otherwise, a handwritten list is fine as long as everything is printed neatly, as long as all of the points are listed, and as long as it's legible, so that anybody who looks at it can figure out what you've got. So much for that. So what's next? Okay, cards and profiles. Now that it was clearly stated, this is a Risen Sun tournament. That means you're going to have to use the Risen Sun cards only. If you're using cards from the last variation, I won't let you use them. So you don't want to show up on the day with the wrong card set. So how do you tell? Pretty simple. Mizushi here is an old card. The reason you could tell is you look for the wound track, and the wound tracks in the bottle, or any bottle on the card like this, is an old card. That's no good. Don't want that. This is a new card. I call this a daisy chain of the wound tracks, a daisy chain. So that's a new card. Good, bad. All right, simple enough. A pro tip for those of you who haven't figured this out already, a nice way to deal with wounds, or to mark wounds so you don't wreck things, is you get a dry erase marker. These are dirt cheap. You buy them in little packs like this and take them with you. This would be my marker for my Savage Wave. The blue one would be a marker for my Tengu. This would be a marker for Ito, so however you want to do it. I mean, it doesn't matter. Do not use permanent marker. Permanent marker is permanent, and it makes Sharpies are wonderful, but they do not come off. So get a dry erase marker, and then what I do is just get some cheap card sleeves, like for a trading card game, and you just drop the card in the trading card game, and then you can mark wounds as you take them, and then if you heal, you can just rub them off, and it's perfect. And then when you're done, you can get your finger wet, or you can just use them that way, and you're good to go. So all the cards that I use on a regular basis are in sleeves, because I don't know if the dry erase markers will come off the regular cards themselves. I mean, they are plastic coated, so probably, but I don't know. I don't take a chance. I like my cards nice and pristine, so I put them in the sleeves, and we're good to go. So the best way to do it is to buy the cards, not these. I mean, let's go back to a good card. The best solution is to have the real card set because everything is there and everything's up to date. However, I have been asked, and it's okay with me, the Bushido Wiki is, as far as I know, up to date. And it has examples of the cards. A lot of the last time I checked, the GCT site still had pictures of the old cards up on the website. But the Bushido Wiki, and this is yet another one of those places I will leave you a link to, has updated cards front and back. So if you want to, you can just take the cards off of there, print those down if you can't buy real cards in time. And you'll be all set. As long as it's the updated data, I don't care if you actually have real cards or if you just get them off the wiki. They work for me. I've been asked about some folks have put together like summary sheets that they were using and if that would be okay. I'm a little hesitant about this. Not that using the summary sheets is fine, but having some version of the card on your person so that if your opponent asks, hey, can I see the card? If it's a summary sheet, if the data is all correct, it's okay. But then again, how's your opponent going to know that is the real data and just not something you cooked up, especially if it's an army that they're not familiar with? So if at all possible, please use either the real cards or use make copies of the cards that are on the wiki page. I think that's by far the best solution. And then I talked about the cards and dry erase markers. And remember, GCT is going to be there with a booth. So, if you've just not been able to find the cards or you don't want to order them from England, they'll be there. And I'm sure they'll have lots of card packs. So, they're not expensive. They're like I don't know what the conversion is right now, but, probably $9 or so, $10, something like that. So not a lot of money, especially considering what you're paying to go to Adepticon in the first place. Okay, another thing, tracking your key on your models. Again, I'm not going to dictate to you how to do this. I'm just going to make some suggestions. So I use chits or tokens. So I've been using, and I still use, the old key tokens. I also use, my son has traveled to Japan a couple of times, and he brought back some these are actually modern Japanese coins. I think these are 1 yen coins. Or you can use the Chinese good luck tokens. Those work. A lot of people also like to use dice. You can use dice. Like I said, I'm not going to fight, this isn't dictator TO here. I'm just trying to give you some hints. The problem with dice, especially if you use higher value dice like D12s, D10s, D20s, is that the footprint of the die is very small when compared to the mass and distribution of the weight of the die above it. The best die that I can recommend is a D6. If you excuse me, I'm going to grab a D6. And the reason the D6s work, I think, they're just the most secure. The problem is if you have a die that has a very small footprint but a big die, is somebody gets up and bumps the table or your sleeve passes over it or you're moving your arm and you hit it and see, now I just knocked that die 8 inches and it didn't change its facing. If that had been a D20, I would have just rolled that die and God only knows what it would have come up. Now, you can work your way backwards. You can figure out, all right, it's this turn X. I would have been earning X key every turn, and then I spent some on this, but then if you start putting in channeling and leeching, and it gets confusing. So you can usually work your way back to the right number, but it's going to slow down your game, and it's going to make both you and your opponent have a little less confidence in what's going on. So if you're going to use dice, please consider using D6s just because they're very stable. You can bump them and they're not going to change the facing necessarily the way any other higher denomination of dice would do. 8s, 10s, 12s, and 20s are all going to roll on you. But the 6s are pretty stable. All right. What we see, that was number 3. Number 4, rule book. Okay. We are in the first Grand Masters tournament in the history of the continental United States. You should have a rule book. You really should. Now, I know you don't need one per se. A lot of the rules are online, but so again, this is a should. Okay, I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to let you not play if you don't have one. But come on, we're adults. Let us have the rule book with us. So if there's a dispute or a question, we can look it up right away. And I'll tell you, as TO, I was able to handle most of the questions last year. Now, granted, a lot of them had to do with scenarios, which hopefully I will cover for you soon. But in essence, if you ask me to make a ruling on a rule, the very first thing I will ask you is, have you looked it up in the rule book? Or hand me your rule book and let's look it up. So you guys can save a lot of time for everybody if both players have a rule book. You don't have to trust each other's interpretation of what you're reading. You can both read the rule at the same time and figure it out. And so that is, again, it's not you must do this, but it is highly recommended. And the other thing you have to do is put your name in it, and I haven't done that yet, so we're going to do it together. So I'm going to wait for about 20 seconds or so. So go get your rule book, go find it, dig it out, take it out of your bag, go find a pen, not a pencil, it's got to be a pen, marker, something like that. You got it? Okay, cool. All right, so open it up, and we're all going to put our names in, and I would put it on the inside here. So I'm just going to write my name. All right, I print very neatly. There we go. So my name's in my rule book. If you want to, you can put what group you're in or what city you're from or something if you think it would help people find you. But for us, I think the name is going to be enough. So I have the little rule book, which came with the 2-person set, which is really cool. If you were looking it's very small and mobile and easy to carry around. So now I'm going to take the big one. I'm going to do the same thing. Of course, I'm kind of reaching around the camera, so my handwriting isn't as neat as it would normally be. All right, there we go. I am set. Oh, sorry, I didn't even do that on camera. There we go. So, okay. So there we are. So only one last thing, and I wanted to mention this. I will, again, put a link to this in the back. I posted on the Adepticon Facebook page that somebody brought to my attention. I didn't know this. Adepticon has got its own model policy and painting requirements. This isn't mine. This isn't my, trying to, again, to force my will on you guys. This is Adepticon's deal. And Adepticon's deal, in essence, boils down to you need to have the right model, it needs to be on the right base, and it needs to have had an honest effort painting it. And so now that's a brief summary. I wouldn't just go on that. But if you're going to do something totally unorthodox as a proxy, you have to run it by them, not by me. You got to run it by Adepticon. Now, I've already had a couple of people talk to me about some little things, and I'm perfectly happy running them by me. I mean, they were just like custom-made markers, for effects like smoke and stuff like that. That is cool. Love that. So if you've got something like that, as long as it's the right size and it doesn't do what it's not supposed to do. In other words, if it doesn't obscure or block line of sight, make sure that your little model doesn't obscure or block line of sight. But I'm cool with that. So you don't have to check with me. But Adepticon has got its own painting requirements and model requirements, and I don't have any control over that, except that it applies to us as well as everybody else. That's how they're trying to assure the quality of the work. I suspect it has something to do with the influx of what's it called? Castings from Russia and China that aren't legal, that kind of stuff. So anyway, so make sure your models are painted. They don't need to be masterpieces. Just make an honest effort to get them painted, get a little stuff on the base so they look interesting. Beautiful models will make everything work that much better. And that's it. I think I've covered most everything. I think the horse is dead and been beaten now. I will try to get this up. Today is Thursday night, fairly late. So there's going to be a bunch of monkeying around when I upload this because I got to add all of these. I got to find all these links and then add them and get them written in. So I'm kind of hoping that I will finish this up tomorrow night after I get home from work, and I'll start the upload. And because I have slow internet, it'll take a while. So somewhere between Friday night and Saturday morning in the US, this video should get up, and then I will turn around and get those scenario videos done as quickly as possible so that you guys have some time to absorb what they are. They're a little different than the normal scenarios. I think you're going to enjoy them. I think they're fun. I fiddled with them a little bit to make them, at least one of them, to make it a little easier and more straightforward than the official GCT version. Again, to try to give everybody a chance to have some fun. But I think they'll be challenging as well. I mean, I haven't dumbed them down per se. I think I've just made them clearer. And that comes from lots of years of playing in 40K tournaments, and some of the scenarios were so convoluted, nobody at the table on either side knew what the heck they were doing. So I'm going to try to avoid that. I think we have 4 fun scenarios. They're interesting. They're very different. They should allow different armies at different rounds to come to the top and have their day in the sun. And I'm hoping you like them. So anyway, by the time you're seeing this, I will be throwing myself into some of the other videos upcoming, and I hope that they all pop next week. I want all of the scenarios to be done so that you guys have at least 2 weeks to take a look at them and figure them out, think about them, maybe even practice 1 or 2. So anyway, that is it. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being patient. I hope you don't take offense at my being insistent on a few things when it comes to the tournament, but it is a Grand Masters event and the first one in the U.S., and I've got a responsibility not only to the players but also to GCT and the previous Grand Masters to make it legit. So if you guys can help me do that by showing up with the stuff you need and with the practice that you should have gotten and knowing your armies well, everything's going to go smoother, everything's going to go faster, and everybody's going to have fun. That's it. We will hopefully talk to you guys in just a couple of more days. Take care, and thanks again for joining me on Gitsapalooza.